In the amazing world of Pokemon, there are some great ones to pick from. Do you want a lizard that literally breathes fire? We got that. Do you want a whale the size of a 5-story building? Oh, that's easy. Maybe you even just want a dragon who's a little bit thick with 2 C's. But with all the amazing ones, you get some who don't really fit in, whether it be the bad designs or they're just sometimes hard to look at. These are the most hated Pokemon of every single generation. Also, these came from multiple videos and lists that I found online, and I made an average for all of them. So if you see a Pokemon that you love and it's on this list, don't hate me. This is just the average of the most hated Pokemon. Let's take a trip back to Kanto. Oh, Kanto. Back then, every Pokemon seemed like they had the best designs. You know how people say the new Pokemon games give up? They say how they have such poor designs, then you take a look at Pidgey and you realize it's just a bird, nothing special. But there were some amazing designs, some of those being Scyther, Gyarados, and of course my boy Venusaur. But there were some pretty rough Pokemon here as well. My pick for this one would easily be Mr. Mime, but it's not my pick, we're taking the average. But come on, I know when he looks at people with those nasty eyes of his, all he thinks about is pulling moves on their mom like he did with Ash's mom. Disgusting. But the all-around most hated Pokemon here is by far Jinx. There's a lot of reasons to hate on Jinx. Her design comes from a Japanese spirit, Yuki Onna. They're a beautiful woman with long black hair and blue lips. The hair and lips part, sure, but the beauty part, I guess, is subjective. You can decide. I never liked her design, and I never used her in any single game. The only slightly redeeming part about her is in the old Pokemon Snap game on the Nintendo 64. She's saying to wake up Articuno. It's like my only slightly decent memory of her. Besides that, pretty mid. On to the second generation, Gold and Silver. These games had amazing Pokemon across the board, my favorite being Tyranitar by far. I still use him in almost every single playthrough that I do. Some other loved Pokemon would of course be Lugia, Espeon, and the 3 legendary dogs. Out of all the Pokemon in Generation 2, the most hated by fans are Unknown. If you ever watched the third Pokemon movie, Spell of the Unknown looked so cool. I was so excited to have them on my team and even spell out my name on the in-game party just to lose to every single trainer I came across because they kept dying. They're definitely unique, but Johto had some amazing Pokemon and they're put at the very bottom. Now to my favorite generation, Hoenn. Hoenn will always have a special place in my heart. I mean, how do you beat 2 legendaries having an eternal fight just so Dad can come down from the heavens and send them both to the Shadow Realm? These games are amazing, but I will say some Pokemon lacked in appearance and also in abilities. But before we slander my favorite games, let's talk about the good designs. Blaziken is the best fire chicken that I have ever seen. Flygon, Salamence, Absol, and Metagross, just to name a few of the cool other ones. On the other scale, the bad ones being Wingull, Volbeat, and Luvdisc. But the overwhelming worst one being Wingull. Being water and flying didn't help it in battles at all, but the worst thing was that he was everywhere. With a map consisting of a lot of water, that meant a lot of Wingulls. You could be searching for anything even remotely by water, and the Wingull army would pull up, guns blazing, just to make everything worse. I hate that little rat bird, but to be honest, Pelipper isn't all that bad. On our way over to Sinnoh, taking things all the way to the Nintendo DS here with updated graphics and gameplay. This was the first ever game that I ever got both copies, so I had Diamond and Pearl. It took a lot of convincing my mom, but I did get them. This generation is amazing, especially if you played Platinum. Some great things about this gen were the evolutions of older Pokemon, the online trading that they added to the game, and the bottom of the DS touchscreen did add a lot. With all their great additions, there had to come with some bad ones as well, unfortunately. Even the addition of Garchomp and Lucario can't make up for this one. Regigigas. This legendary Pokemon has slow start, which basically makes him Internet Explorer of Pokemon. For 5 turns, his offensive stats are cut in half. He is kind of like the third Hemsworth brother with legendaries. He's just kind of there. It's like the McDonald's McRib. People say they like it, but you just can't seem to ever want to try it, yet it always is there. It pops up when you're like, oh hey, I remember you. You're a legendary Pokemon, but I've never really wanted to use you. Now over to Black and White. I didn't play these games on release, I will say, but I did come back in way later and I did play them and I did actually enjoy them quite a bit. I know they got a lot of hate in the beginning, and it seems like people are starting to really like them now. The music in the game is top notch, gameplay was fun, and there was some really cool Pokemon like Samurott, Chandelure, Haxorus, and who could forget There were also some not really great ones, like Klinkling, Garbodor, and whatever these things are. The all-time hated one here is by far Garbodor. I think his design is kind of cool, but Muck did it before and he did it way better. Watchog is by far the least popular Pokemon of all time. People have done like videos on this. He's the least searched Pokemon of all time, but the most hated is Garbodor. X and Y were fun, but a lot of people did hate these games. There wasn't a lot of content, to be honest. The game went by so fast. It seemed like they made it so easy that my dog could beat it in a few days, and that guy doesn't even have opposable thumbs. The starters were subpar besides Greninja, who completely stole the show. The most hated Pokemon in this generation goes to Slurpuff. Slurpuff is a food-based Pokemon which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. It did not in this case. It was designed to introduce new players to a simple fairy design, but ended up looking like something you wouldn't even want to waste a Pokeball on. Gen 7 is here, Sun and Moon. The frame drops in this game were a little bit rough, but talking about frame rates, we'll get to that with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Also, the regions seem to be a little bit small. I did enjoy the games though. They introduced some of the coolest Pokemon being Beware, Mudsdale, Lunala, and my favorite Pokemon, Mimikyu. The worst Pokemon being a lowland Persian. Just look at his face. Do I need to say anything else? Now to Sword and Shield. This would have been the newest generation, but Scarlet and Violet just came out a few days ago, so I'll be adding them as well. Sword and Shield was, in my opinion, a pretty good game. It did have its flaws, but the story was overall fun. I really liked Leon, and the DLCs are pretty amazing. Gigantamaxing was a fun new mechanic, so on this game I'll add the most hated new Pokemon as well as the most hated Gigantamax form. This game brought in some really cool new Pokemon, but as we've seen with other games, that also means some really rough ones as well. The most hated ones being Cramorant, Mr. Rhyme, and Greedent. The number one most hated being Mr. Rhyme. He is just this demon's brother, and I hate them both. I'm happy he made the bottom of the list. Out of all the Gigantamaxing Pokemon, the most hated one is Meowth. They turned this little Pokemon into Cat Dog. And finally, we have Scarlet and Violet. I will say I have not completed this game yet, but I am very close. This opening has been kind of rough. A lot of glitches and frame drops has made this game pretty hard to play, which is sad because besides that, the game is really fun. I have looked over the entire Pokedex and know a good amount of most of the new Pokemon. This game is still new, so the most hated may change of course, but as of now the most hated Pokemon is Wiglet. Let me save you a joke here and just take a look at him. I didn't know that this beach was a nudist beach. He has a poor design of my boy Diglett. They could have done him so much better. They massacred my boy. What are your most hated Pokemon and why? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. You guys are the best. I really do appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me on my last few videos. It's been crazy. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Hope you guys have a great day, and peace out.